Hi, my name is DeWayne Chandler, Master Barber Stylist, with more than 20 years experience in the barbering industry. Today I'm going to explain to you the ABCs of clipper cutting. I'm going to talk about all the different types of clippers and combs that you will use to achieve a desired look. When you review this video, you will understand the basic concepts and techniques that you will need to achieve desired looks. So I want you to sit back, relax, and learn. Now I'm going to introduce to you all the things that you will need to do a complete barbering service, from the sanitizer jar all the way down to your clippers and your combs. This is your sanitary jar. This jar houses your combs. This is an antibacterial disinfecting jar to disinfect your implements prior to using them for your service. And of course you'll need a cape to drape your client with. In addition to the cape, you'll need a cape clip. This clip attaches the cape in a secure manner so it does not remove during the service. You're also going to need a neck duster. This particular duster houses the powder inside of the duster. The powder helps to remove the hair that is stuck on the client. You're also going to need an assortment of shears and combs. This particular shear is a 5.5 inch shear. This is used to cut your inner perimeter of the hair in shorter style cuts. You're also going to need a little longer shear so you can come out and finish the style after the style's been cut. You're also going to need a wide tooth comb. This particular comb is thin and it has a wide tooth, and it's great for tapering effects in the back. You'll also need a wide tooth afro comb, a styling comb, and the most important comb that you'll need as a barber is the tapering comb. For the longer hairstyles, you will want to use a pick. This particular wire pick is long enough. You can use it for several different reasons, and as we go along we'll talk about the various reasons that you'll use this particular instrument, but mainly it's used to lift the hair out as you style it. Now that we reviewed the combs, we're going to talk about the single most important tools that you're going to need as a barber, your clippers. There are several different types of clippers. Each individual clipper has been designed for a specific use. We'll talk about motor-driven clippers and magnetic clippers and their specific purposes. This is a motor-driven clipper. This motor drives the blades, which allows the blades to remain cool. The blades are detachable, and they come in an assortment of sizes from 5/0 to 3.5. This is the cordless version of the motor-driven clipper. Again, the motor allows the blades to remain cool at all times. It also has a detachable blade that comes in sizes 5/0 to 3.5. It also has a detachable battery for ease of use. This allows you more cutting time. This is your very small 5/0 blade. This blade is designed to get very close tapers, very bald at the end. So when a person comes in and says they want a bald taper, they want the hair very close to the scalp, you can achieve that look with this particular blade. Notice how thin the blade is. You'll see that it cuts you extremely close. This is your 3/0 blade. It doesn't cut quite as close as your 5/0. This is for styles that you want to be less bald with just a little shadow of hair left. Again, it is extremely thin and it'll get you to the next level. This is your number 1 blade. As we graduate up in size, this leaves your hair a little longer than your 3/0. So as you see, there's a stair-step effect taking place with your blade sizes. You go from 5/0 to 3/0 to 1/0. Again, it's a little thicker, and as you'll see, as we move up in the blade sizes, you'll see as I turn them to the side that the blades will graduate in size. Your 1.5 blade. Again, it's a little larger than your 1/0. It's a little thicker on the side. It'll leave your hair a little longer, and this will help remove some of the weight that is left in your taper as you go up the head. So remember, this is the 1.5. This is probably the single most important blade that you will use in achieving most desired looks. This is the number 2. Again, it's a little larger. You notice the teeth are a little larger than the number 1 or the 1.5. It's the next size up from the 1.5 as we graduate up the scale in clipper sizes. And then you notice as I turn it to the side, it's a little thicker than your 1.5. Now remember, all the blade sizes are designed to work in conjunction with each other. You go from the shortest to the longest, all the way up to a number 3.5. The 3.5 is the granddaddy of the blades. It leaves here approximately about 1/4 of an inch in length. And this will execute a lot of the shorter hairstyles that men generally like to wear. This is your magnetic clipper. This particular clipper is different from your motor-driven clipper because it operates off of a magnetic vibration. It is a lot quieter, and it has an adjustable blade as opposed to a removable blade. And if you'll see, as we adjust the blade on the side here, using the adjustment lever, you can adjust the blade anywhere from a 3/0 up to a 1.5. This particular blade has the same use as all the previous motor-driven blades that I've shown you. If you can only afford one clipper, this is the clipper to buy. Now remember, I showed you the detachable clipper blades from the motor-driven clipper. The magnetic clipper has different size blades, but they are attachment blades. And they are plastic attachment guards designed to fit that specific clipper. This is just one example of the attachment blade that you will use. And to show you how that works, you would take the attachment blade and clamp it onto the clipper. Now what this does, it allows you a little longer cutting base, and it still adjusts the clipper to several different sizes. So you're going to get several different sizes just out of this one particular blade. And again, it'll graduate in size till you go all the way up to a 3.5. For a little longer here. All the way up to a 2-inch hairstyle. Again, if you can only afford one clipper, the magnetic clipper is the way to go. This is one of the single most important tools that you're going to need in terms of finishing your hairstyle. This is the clipper that will allow you to get your lines, your sharp design lines on the outer perimeter of the hair. It has a 5/0 finishing blade that will give you extremely close. A lot of men use this particular blade to shave with in lieu of a razor. And we'll be talking about that later on in further volumes of the ABCs of clipper cutting. Now that I've explained each individual tool and its purpose, we're going to show you how to use these tools together to form some fantastic hairstyles. We're also going to talk about selling different services. Let's go to our first haircut, the gentleman's fade. Right now we're going to comb the client's hair out so we can get a general idea as to the growth pattern of the hair. So we comb out all around the hair. Then we're going to take our pick and we're going to lift out the longer hair on the top. We're going to lift that hair out as far as possible, working around the head. And then we're going to take our magnetic clipper and we're going to have the clipper set to a 1.5 position, which is all the way open. And we're going to start our design line right at the nape of the neck, working up to the lower occipital. Then one of the things we're going to do is we're going to continue with that same motion to the left side of the head, working up to approximately 1/2 inch or 1.5 inches above the ear. Smooth, even strokes, rocking the clipper in a rocking motion. Create a 45, if you will. Then we're going to continue on the right side of the head with the same motion. It's very important you want to have those sections as clean as possible when you cut that first zone. And that's going to be the basis of your haircut. And then what we're going to do is, after you've matched one side to the other, we're going to come back and we're going to measure that to make sure that you achieve the 1.5 inch or the 2 inch that you need to balance the haircut out. So now you have your first guide for this particular taper haircut. And if you like to fade higher, you would fade a little bit higher. But that's just to give you a basic starting point. Then we're going to come back in with our motor-driven clipper to remove some of the bulk and take the weight out of the first line that was left by the magnetic clipper. And notice again, we're operating the clipper in a rocking motion, just removing the weight line. Using our barbering comb, or tapering comb if you will, to continually comb that hair back down in place so we can physically view and see where the weight is left in at. Again, working from a left to right motion, we're working over to the left side of the head in a rocking motion, just rocking that weight line out with the clipper. Notice how the clipper bounces off the head almost in a 45-degree angle. A lot of times when you use your clippers, you want to think in terms of if you were pulling the hair out, cutting it at a 45-degree angle. And it's the same thing you're going to do. Then you're going to come back with your clippers, going with the grain this time, to remove some of the weight out. Notice how that, with every stroke, the hair blends out, and our haircut is starting to take shape. Again, right in there with that rocking motion, taking that weight line out. And sometimes you have to keep combing and going back in there because you know, you want to get it as smooth as possible. And just work one section at a time from left to right side of the head. And notice we're moving a little bit further up the head because we want to remove some of that weight as well. And we're moving around the head in a very consistent manner, working right to left. Still taking the clipper in a 45-degree rocking motion to take the excess weight out of the line, right around the head. Continuing to comb right on up to our next zone. And you'll notice that as we do that, you'll start to see that your haircut is really starting to take form now. You can see we've removed pretty much the first line, and we've sort of created a second line, but it's not as noticeable. We want to keep that fade as low as possible. So notice how we work the clipper in the direction of the growth of the hair. We shave it, comb it, shave it, comb it. And we keep going back in there to remove that line. Now again, we're going to come back in and go in with a shear and a comb technique also to remove out that lower line. But before we get to that, we're going to just continue to smooth it out in the area that we need until we get the desired length around the side of the head, working on back to the occipital section, working on down, and now we've pretty much achieved the level that we want right in through here. Go back here, clean this one little section up over here. And you would use that clipper and comb just like you would use a shear and comb. Now we're back to the magnetic clipper. Again, opened all the way up to your 1.5 setting. We're going with the grain of the hair, and we're moving out some of that weight that was left for that previous line. Notice how the haircut's starting to take shape now? We're going in there and we're starting to give it some of the finished look to the cut. Again, we're going right with the grain of the hair, with the growth of the hair. We're moving that line on out. Continue to measure your cut. Now we're going to close the clipper blade just a little bit, and we're going to go back in here with our taper comb, and we're going to do the clipper over comb technique, rocking the narrow end of the tapering comb right up under that line, rocking it out to a 45-degree angle. Notice that. See how it rocks out to a 45-degree angle? And all you want to cut is just the hair that extends over the base of that comb. Now remember, you've closed your clippers down to the smallest setting, and we're going up in there using the clipper and comb technique, using the smallest end of the taper comb to go right up in there at a 45-degree angle and remove that line. And you're going to do that continuing around the head. Very important, very important. Now that is the same technique that you will use when you're going with a shear and comb, and you'll notice later in the haircut that we're going to go back in there and we're going to do that as well to remove some of that excess weight out to give it a more balanced look. And we're going to continue with the same technique, out to a 45, just cutting the hair that hangs over the base of the comb. Angles out at a 45, combing the hair down. Now we're going into the shear and comb technique. Again, using the smaller end of the taper comb right up into that line, taking it right up into that line, rocking it out at a 45-degree angle, just the same if you would be holding it out with your hands. And you're taking the tips of your shears and you're just removing the hair that hangs over the base of the comb, continuing to comb through it. Then we'll go back with our magnetic clipper again with the closed setting all the way, and we're just going to go through there and just clean that out really nice. Going with the grain in here. Now you really start to see our haircut taking shape now. We're going to go in and do some finishing strokes just to balance out the sides with the top. And you'll see it starting to form. Now we're starting to form our design line for the top of the hair. Now this technique is called a freehand technique. This is a freehand clipper technique where your clipper is close to the smallest setting and you're just gliding the base of the clipper over the top of the head. Notice how the points of the clipper just glide over the top of the head. And you just take off small sections, small layers of hair with each pass. Don't worry about going through the hair too deep. Just hold the clipper firmly and just make real smooth sections right over the top of the head. Real smooth strokes, and you'll start to see your haircut take shape. And you comb through it and just cut what jumps up. Now, this technique is a technique that we use to measure the length on the top of the hair. we stick the pick there and put your finger right at the tip of the hair, and that'll let you know whether or not you have a consistent length of hair right through the top of the head. And then you come on back in here. Once you find out, where your hair is at, you want to make it a little bit longer, a little shorter in certain sections. You take that freehand technique and just work over the section that is too long. Just continue with even strokes right across the top of the hair. And you all constantly have to look at the head to see if you have the proper balance within your haircut. Notice how we're just a little higher on the right side here. So we're just going to take our time and smooth right across the top of the hair with a finishing stroke. Again, continuing to comb as you go through the haircut. We're going to come back in here again and take a smooth stroke straight across the top of the head. Notice they're very even, careful strokes. We're in no hurry at all. Then we're going to come back in here. Once we've got relatively close to the length that we want, we're going to come back in there with our shears. And we're just going to do a freehand shear job right on the top of the hair. We're going to shear across the top of the head, just removing the hair that is out of place. This is the hair that's out of balance. So we're going to balance that haircut using the shears. We're going to position the client's head where we need it at, and we're going to start just going over the head with the shears. Again, continuing to use the tapering comb to comb through and start to put your finished look on this particular haircut. Freehand it right across the top of the hair, and then as you continue to look at the haircut, you'll be able to see what hair is out of place or where you're off balance at. So you can come back in there. If you're not real sure about your clipper, freehand clipper technique, you can always use those shears to take it down a little at a time, just a little at a time. It's a lot safer technique for you to use if you haven't developed your freehand clipper technique just yet. Now we're going to our finishing clipper, and we're going in there and we're going to start to form our outer perimeter, our design line, our design neckline, if you will. Using the right index finger, we're going to just use that to rest upon the air, move the air out the way, so we can go in there and cut our line. And one of the most important things you want to do is come up to the very tip of the hair and cut that line straight and even. Position the client's head, and by turning the client's head over to the right, it stretches the neck, which allows you to get an even cleaner shave at the base of the neck. And just coming back up against the grain and cleaning that up just like that. See how crisp that line is? And that's what you want to do throughout the haircut. As you put your design line in. Again, using the point of the clipper. You want to use that like a pencil or a pen, a drawing pen, if you will. And you're going to use that to draw your line in just around the edge of the ear. And I tell you, those design lines in the haircut is what really makes the haircut stand out. Once you've balanced out the haircut, you've removed all the weight lines, and you come out and you put that outer perimeter design line in, I tell you, it really makes the haircut look fantastic. So what we're doing right now is we're cutting him a angled sideburn. We're just going to go in there and just clean that out, come up against the grain, remove the excess hair below that. And you notice how that line is coming in really, really neat there. There's so many different things you could do with men's sideburns these days, so you really have to kind of have a consultation with your client to determine how they would like to have their sideburns. Some guys like them high, some guys like them pointed, so there's a lot of different variations with your sideburns. Then again, we're going to take the point of the clipper and we're going to use it as a pencil, and we're going to draw that line in there. Just notice how we use the point. Just drawing the line in there, right around the curvature of the temple of the hair. We're just going to go right with his natural hairline using the tip of the clipper just to draw that line right on in there. And then we'll use the flat surface of the clipper to go in there and clean it out. You see how that's done? It's not nice. Just use the point of the clipper going right in there. Now you really start to see this haircut taking shape. Now we're going to continue with that same design line right to the other side of the head. And you want to keep going back in there, clean it up till you get it nice and crisp. Again, using your tapering comb to comb that hair out. Let's go to our second haircut, the gentleman's quo vadis. This is a multifaceted haircut. Today we're going to do it on a more professional, mature gentleman. We're going to start using our motor-driven clipper with a 1.5-inch blade on it, working at the base of the neck, working up in one continuous motion, straight up to the back of the head. Straight up to the back of the head. Notice when we start at the back on the left side, and we're going to continue to work from left to right, continuing to comb through as we go through. One continuous motion. Very basic haircut. Straight up in one straight motion. The beautiful part about using the motor-driven clipper is because it removes a lot of the bulk quite rapidly. This is a very easy haircut, very basic haircut. One you need to get you started. Continuing to work straight on up the client's head. We're going in there. We're going to cut this here against the grain. So whatever direction it grows, that's the direction we want to cut. Straight up the client's head. Real even strokes around the ear. And notice when we get right around in the area, right around the tip of the ear, we want to have a rocking motion on that clipper. Just a rocking motion. Remember, that rocking motion will get you right up in there, and it'll get those shorter hairs out of there. Comb that, and we'll continue to go back to our original even stroke. Even strokes. Right from the top, straight on back through the back. This is a haircut that can be done in a relatively short period of time. That's why it's very important for you to sell additional services. Now, this gentleman came in and we colored his beard, and we colored his beard, and we're going to put a shorter cut on. It's going to take 10 years off his look. And we're going to just continue to work all around the head, just going back in one continuous motion. This is a very basic haircut. You'll find that a lot of you younger men are starting to wear this haircut. Some of you ladies that are out there trying to do clipper cuts, you can actually go in and relax a client's hair and then come in there with the 1.5, go against the grain and do a very basic cut like this here, and then finish up with a very beautiful design line. But remember, it's always very important to keep that clipper in a rocking motion when you want to go straight up that head. One continuous motion. It's not very difficult to cut men's hair. You just have to take your time and be very consistent. Holding the client's hair out of the way, going against the direction of the growth of the hair. Smoothing that clipper ever so slowly up the side of the client's head. Continue to remove all that weight. Notice how you want to keep the blades flush to the client's hair, just like I put against my hand here, real flush to the head. Going up. Now notice, we're just about part way through this haircut, and it really hasn't taken a whole lot of time. We're just going back in right now, and we're going to clean up the hair that we've missed. Now we're working into the beard area. We're going to just comb that down there so we get the hair to move in one direction, and we've gone into our magnetic clipper now, open to the tallest setting, to your 1.5 setting, and we're going to go right with the direction of the growth of the beard. Straight down. And this is going to give us one even look on the beard, one even length. We're going to go right with the grain. And we're going to start at one end and work our way down and all the way around the beard. I tell you, this is a phenomenal look, because once we put that design line on there, you're going to start to see the style come together. Actually, you can already see it come together right now. But again, we're going to take small, even strokes straight down the beard. Working our way around to the front. Lower portion of the neck right around to the chin. And this is going to keep that hair one even length throughout the entire beard. And it's a really nice look once it finishes up. Notice we're going in there, and notice how even the strokes are. They're not short, choppy strokes. They're even, continuous strokes. Straight throughout the beard from one side to the next. And you always want to work in a continuous motion. You want to start at one end and work your way around, and then come on back around again. Again, continuing to comb the areas that you're cutting. And now we're going to go for the finished look. We're going to start to put our design line in. Again, starting at the client's right ear. Now I'm right-handed. I usually start at the right ear. I use my forefinger to move the client's ear out of the way. And I come in and I put my design line straight on in, straight down the neck at an angle. Now there's various lines you can put in, so it depends on the client's preference and the type of style that you're going for. But if the client's hairline grows in that angle, you want to cut it in that angle. And again, just going in there and cleaning that up, using your finger to move the air out the way. Moving that air out the way so you don't cut it, and using the tip of that clipper like a pencil. And we're going to draw that line right on in. We're going to work our way around to the beard. Now we're starting to connect this hairstyle. We're putting our line right on the edge of the beard. ever so gently, working our way up. And you really have to use these finishing clippers as an artistic instrument. You want to use the tip of that clipper to go in there and draw your line out, because this is what really makes this particular style. Now notice how I use the point of the clipper blade to go in there and secure my line. That sets my line up right there, and I can get the line anywhere I want it. And then I'll just go in there and just clean it right on out. Continue to work down the beard, right on up to the top. And always remember, you want to comb through, and you want to go back through every pass and comb through it using the tip of the comb. You want to go back in there and catch those smaller hairs that stick out that you may have missed. Just working your way right on around, right on around. Are you beginning to like this haircut? I am. I hope you are too. This is the very basic haircut that you're going to need to know to get you started off in the wonderful world of men's haircutting. Continuing to comb that hair straight forward and work that design line right on down. Right on down the beard. Now notice how I use the tip of the clipper, and I'm constantly going back over, following that line straight on around. Straight on around. Now we're going to start to connect the lower portion of the beard. Coming right on down. And we're setting our line. And you want to press it in just a little bit so you can pull that hair out a little closer and get the desired line that you want. Fantastic. Always keep your eye right on what you're doing. Now we're on the left side of the head, and we're going to hold the ear out of the way, and we're going to start to cut our outer perimeter on the left side of the head, working straight down the nape of the neck. Then we're going to turn our clippers over and go right up against the grain with that clipper to clean it up. Notice how straight and clean that line is? Straight down at an angle. And we're going to continue to work our way up around the ear. You know, making sure that we get to the tip of the ear, and then we'll start to use the point of the clipper blade again. Like I told you before, the point of the blade, and we're going to work our way right around that ear. That's what really makes the haircut stand out, when you pay attention to the details. That's what really makes the haircut looks good. Again, we're going to come right around that ear, right around the back of the beard, from the tip of the ear on around. And we're going to make that as clean as possible. Okay? And while you're in there, you might, if a client has some hair growing in his ear, you want to get that little bit of hair out of the ear, because that's attention to detail that you're going to need. That's what's going to make you stand out from all the rest of the barbers. Then we're going to come around and continue to connect with the other side of the haircut, bringing that front hairline right on around. Right on around. And notice how I'm taking my time, just working one small section at a time. Again, remember, use the tip of that blade as your pencil. That's going to draw your line in there. That's going to get you started. And you just draw that line right in there and continuing to comb and going back in there and cutting the hairs that may have come out when you combed it. Because they're always going to, additional hairs always going to pop out. So you just want to keep going back in there and combing it and cutting it until you get it the way you want it. You just have to take your time. Now we're going to follow that line straight on down into the beard area like we did on the other side. Connecting the lower portion of the beard. Again, using the tip of the blade as your pencil to draw that line. And we're going to go in and press firmly on the beard, on the skin, and pull that line straight on out. Notice how we do that? So we just pull it straight on out, and we start to connect the beard with the lower sideburn. And we connect this whole hairstyle together. Combing it, working our way straight on around. Notice the curvature of that beard? And that matches it up with the other side for us. This is not a very difficult hairstyle at all, but it can make a lot of money for you. Now we're at the back of the nape of the neck. We have both of our outer design lines. Now we're going to work with our line straight across the back of the neck. Now notice how I'm putting my line right there where the client has a crease in his neck. That makes it look very natural. So we bring that line straight on across, and again, using the lower, shorter portion of the tapering comb, we'll comb it back out, and we're going to go back in there and cut it. Now we're going to put a part on this particular client. Now remember, when you line up your part, you want it to line up straight over the client's eye. If he desires a slanted part, you line it up over his opposite eye. So we're just going to comb through there and move the hair all the way. Then we're going to come back in with the flat surface of the clipper, and we're going to cut that part in there on that angle. And you can just line it up visually and go on in there and cut the part in. Just continuing to cut it. You want to start off small and work your way up. And you want to keep those parts around about 2-3 inches. You don't want to get them too much longer than that. Then we're going to comb the hair over, and then we're going to cut. Anything that pops out there, we're going to cut that. And as you see, it's a very simple part. But it adds years off the client's look. Then we're going to go back in here and just clean up the area where we were just working at. Make sure we have it the way we want it, and we'll clean that part up just a little bit here. Now we're going to work on the bottom half of the beard. We're going to clean up the client's neck. And this is going to be the last section of the hairstyle that we really have to work on, with the exception of the mustache. We're going to go in there, we're going to put that line right at the nape of the neck, working our way around. And then we're going to come in here and clean this mustache up and make sure these corners are balanced, even. And we clean out all that hair that's in between there. Going right over the top of the lip. And notice how we have the clipper flush to the client's skin, and we're going right down with the grain. And that's so you can see what you're doing. And we're going to comb through there and just clean up the length of there and put that line right on the lip. Now notice how this look is really coming together. Again, you want to take the tip of the blade and go in there and clean the client's nose out. You may have some nose hairs. You want to get that out of there. I tell you, it just adds to the quality of the service. And you want to make that client as sharp as possible. So you go in there and you do those extra little things. Now we're back to the mustache. We're working our way around to the other side, balancing that mustache, just removing the excess hair there. Is it fantastic? Now notice how much younger our client looks after the beard service as opposed to the gray beard. Now what you have just experienced are 2 basic men's haircuts. That should be the basis of every haircut that you have to do in terms of your men's styling. And you can even incorporate some of those techniques into ladies' styles and children's styles. So go back, review the tape, continue to learn, and I'll see you in my next series.